Hi there, folks. I've been given the privilege to share with you the history of one of the best, and my favorite, things about our small town of Jefferson. And that, boys and girls, is the food. Today, Jefferson has many restaurants and special foods that have been around even longer than I have. From restaurants that are over 100 years old, to being in the top 50 best of barbecue joints and hamburger joints in Texas. But it wasn't always like that, and Jefferson definitely didn't used to have the food it does now. In fact, the oldest account of a meal in Jefferson was written in the diary of a Texas Ranger known as Buck Berry when he visited Jefferson in 1845. This was around the time Jefferson was first settled and developing. In fact, he was on the second ship to ever come to Jefferson wharfs.
He left North Carolina, his birth state, sometime in his 20s, and he sailed to New York. From there, he would have to wait almost 2 weeks to catch a barge headed down to New Orleans. He was on that barge for 29 days before he made it to the mouth of the Mississippi River, where the barge was then towed all the way up to New Orleans. From there, Buck caught another boat going up the river within the week. The boat went up to the Red River, across some lakes too, most notably Lake Caddo. After navigating through some more rivers and lakes, they found their way to a landing called Jefferson. This ship that Texas Ranger Buck Berry was on also housed 130 other passengers on it and was the second ever ship to come to Jefferson. When Buck's ship makes land in Jefferson, everyone gets off to look for breakfast. You see, on the way to Jefferson, all the provisions and the rations that had been stored up had all been eaten and used up, so when people had gotten off, they were extremely hungry. So Buck steps ashore and heads into town to see if he can find some breakfast.
At the time, Jefferson was just beginning, and only had a few buildings and a few houses under construction, with only one house even being done. After some time of not seeing any restaurants or cookhouses, Buck asked a local where he could find some breakfast. They pointed him towards a smoke trail coming out of the forest. He followed the smoke and wound up at a campfire where a man was serving folks meat, bread, and coffee, and using a large split pine log as a table, similar to this one right here, just bigger. It said that the man was charging 25 cents for a meal at the time. However, Buck only had a dime on him. It's a good thing that the host was willing to take his dime and still give him a meal of the meat, bread, and coffee. However, even though he got it cheap, he was sure to notice that it was still a pretty poor meal, and most likely not very tasty or filling, but better than nothing. Little did he or anyone know, this would be the event that would cause the ripples that prompted Jefferson to boom with cuisine. It's quite a shame that Buck wasn't able to get any of the great meals that we have here in Jefferson today. But I'm sure if Buck were alive to get a taste of what we got going on in Jefferson nowadays, his opinion would be quite different. It's quite easy to see why Jefferson is famous for his food. We got a little bit of everything. Some of the tastiest barbecue in Texas from Riverport, delicious cornbread sandwich from Kit's, or maybe just a classic Moody Dog from the general store. Whatever you choose, you really can't go wrong in Jefferson. When you first come over the first bridge into Jefferson, you'll come across Austin Street. You can find a great selection of good eating just on this street. To the left, there's Auntie Skinner's Bar and Grill and Taste-A-Catto. To the right, there's the Jefferson General Store that makes their signature Moody Dogs. And further down the road, even more restaurants.
So our first stop after coming into Jefferson would be Auntie Skinner's, located on 107 West Austin Street. You absolutely can't miss it and can identify it by the large words Auntie Skinner's Riverboat Club painted on the side. Skinner's has been a popular restaurant, biker bar, meeting place, and great place for shows since it opened up in 1983. However, the building itself dates back to 1866 when it was originally built as a port warehouse. Since being built, the building has had many different purposes, from holding offices, drugstores, to most recently a saloon before the modern restaurant. Both inside and outside, you'll notice that Riverboat Club isn't in the name for no reason. On the outside, you'll definitely notice a large mural of their signature riverboat, and inside you'll find more pictures of real riverboats and steamships that have come to the area. The place blooms at night with people and laughter, especially on one of the nights where they host live entertainment, usually music. In addition to good music, they also have some great food. My personal favorite is the off-the-chain sandwich, and like its name, it is truly off the chain. Made with chicken, ham, bacon, Swiss cheese, and veggies, served on a warm hoagie bun. Their namesake dish is the chicken Annie Skinner, which is fried potatoes topped with a specialty grilled chicken breast, topped with bell peppers, onions, tomatoes, pepper jack cheese, and a side sauce of your choice. The food is fairly priced and fairly delicious. It's not a place you would regret going for lunch or dinner. The next stop will be the Jefferson General Store, home of the Moody Dog, which is still on Austin Street, just on the other side of Polk Street. The General Store building has been there since the 1860s and was used as a hardware store before it became the General Store in the 1970s when the couple Anna and Cliff Bodie bought the property. The Moody Dog itself is actually older than the General Store and was first developed in a restaurant called Moody's and was made by the creators Joe and Mary Moody sometime around the 1930s or 40s. No one's really quite sure of an exact year anymore. Unfortunately, the original Moody's was closed down around the 1960s or 70s. However, that didn't stop the Moody Dog. The special recipe for the Moody Dog was bought by Pam and Mike Watts, owners of the little grocery store Stack a Sack. Moody's, the restaurant, may have died, but the Moody Dog lived on. Inheriting the Moody Dog was the best thing Pam and Mike could have done. Once they started selling the Moody Dogs, business boomed. It was a favorite of the town. Their main attraction was the Moody Dog. There's even a sign with a large Moody Dog on it on the old closed down store to serve as a reminder to this day. However, like all good things, the Stack a Sack too had to eventually close down in the early 2000s. However, the Moody Dog still continued to survive. Pam decided to let the Moody Dog live on by giving it to her sister Anna. That's right, the same Anna as in Anna and Cliff Bodie who owned the General Store in the 1970s, and it's still there to this very day. Today you could go to the General Store and get the original Moody with or without the weenie, made with the original recipe as it always has been to this very day.
Our next stop is full of swampy scrumptiousness. Jefferson's Riverport is straight down Polk Street and you absolutely cannot miss it. Barbecue is a must for anyone visiting Jefferson, and it is especially special to us Jeffersonians because Riverport was recognized as one of the top 50 barbecue joints in Texas by Texas Monthly Magazine. The restaurant had some hardships when it burned down on January 15, 2012. Joseph got a call late at midnight. Someone let him know that his restaurant was on fire. He rushed to the building as fast as he could, hoping to salvage as much equipment or anything as possible. However, the fire had already consumed much of the restaurant. At first, he couldn't get in through the front doors. Luckily, firefighters were on the scene and were able to get the fire under control. They went in with Joseph to rescue what they could, but unfortunately were only able to recover a table, lantern, an old sign his grandfather had given him, and an alligator sculpture that he used as an unofficial mascot of Riverport. Unfortunately, the restaurant was gone. But not all hope was lost. The community rallied behind Joseph, and in a matter of 5.5 months, Riverport was up and running again, and it has been serving us the best since 1993, when Stephen Joseph first opened the establishment. He's still the owner to this day. No matter what meal you choose, you can always expect a good meal at a very reasonable price when you go to Riverport. Some of their fan favorites are the swamp fries, pork ribs, and the brisket. My personal favorite is the swamp fries, of course, which is brisket, cheese, onions, and jalapenos over some fries, topped with their special barbecue sauce that's been used for over 25 years. Is easily, hands down, best thing ever. It may be simple, but I guarantee anyone who tries them will have a new Jefferson favorite. McGarrys is one of the most popular restaurants in Jefferson today, and for good reason. They offer both classic and new American dishes that will make your mouth water. However, the menu does change quite often depending on the time of the season, so if you don't see anything that piques your interest, make sure to come back again next time. Some of their popular dishes are their famous chicken and waffles, crab cake, eggs benedict, and much more. They also have a great white cheddar and bacon mac and cheese. The restaurant was originally owned by Mr. Brent Strawn, but was sold to retired U.S. Navy sailor Ken Jones in 2018. The building McGarrys resides in is one of the oldest and most historic in Jefferson. The building was built all the way back in 1860, when Jefferson was just starting to develop, and it was in 1864 when James H. McGarry, his namesake, and Dr. John M. Firth bought the building and opened a saloon there. The saloon was open for 4 years before 1868, when one of the owners was put on trial for permitting gaming and running a disorderly house. Jefferson is quite unique. It's chock full of tasty food and interesting history, for both the locals and the tourist. You can make a day out of going around town and taking a look at the buildings. Perhaps read some of the many plaques filled with information that are around town. And if you happen to get hungry, you can stop at one, or maybe even a few, of the restaurants on this list, or some of the ones that aren't, and try something new.